Hello again, friends. One of the most popular fairy tales in the whole world is Cinderella. As such, almost every culture has their own version of the story. Today, we will read the Portguese Cinderella. I wonder how different it will be. So join me now as we read The Hearth Cat. Once there was a widower who had 3 daughters. Well, there's the first difference, and it's in the first sentence, too. No step-siblings, just 2 older sisters. The 2 eldest thought of nothing but dress and finery, and going to amusements, or sitting at the window doing nothing, whilst the youngest occupied herself with the household management, and was fond of assisting the servant in the kitchen, and for which reason her sisters called her the Hearth Cat. One day the father caught a fish and brought it home alive, and as the youngest daughter was the one who occupied herself in cooking, and was, besides, his favorite child, he gave her the fish to prepare for their supper. As the fish was alive, and she took a great liking to it on account of its pretty yellow color, she placed it in a large pan with water, and begged her father to allow her to keep it for herself, and not kill it. As soon as her father consented to her keeping it, she at once took it to her own room, and gave it plenty of water to swim in. And when the sisters saw what had been done with the fish, they began to cry out and complain that, for the sake of pleasing the Hearth Cat, they were to be deprived of eating that excellent fish. I wonder what they had for dinner instead. At night, when the little maiden had already laid herself down to sleep, the fish began to say to her, "O maiden, throw me into the well. O maiden, throw me into the well." "Ah! A talking fish!" The fish repeated this so often and so imploringly that at length she rose and threw the fish into the well. The following day she took a walk in the garden to try and see the fish, as she quite yearned to have a look at it once more, and as she drew close to the well, she heard a voice inside which said, "O maiden, come into the well. O maiden, come into the well." She ran away with fear. Good choice. But on the following day, when the sisters were gone to the festival, the maiden again approached the border of the well, and she heard once more the same voice calling for her, and, impelled by it, she went into the well. What was that? Was that a fish? Did you just see? No. Ah! That was another fish. Does someone around here have a salmon cannon?
Hey! I quit. I can't work like this. Shut up!
I better finish the story before it starts raining salmon. Where was I? Oh, that's right. The voice called for her, and impelled by it, she went into the... Is it spawning season? I feel like this is maybe a dangerous place to tell a story. She went into the well, and she'd hardly reached the bottom when the fish appeared to her, and laying hold of her hand, or fin, or something. This is very odd. I have never told a story under these circumstances before. I think we're okay now. And she had hardly reached the bottom when the fish appeared to her, and laying hold of her hand. With what? A fin? This is very odd. He conducted her to a palace of gold and precious stones, and said to her, "Go into that chamber, and attire yourself in the best and most elegant robe you can find there, and put on a pair of golden slippers, which are ready for you. as you will see, for I mean you to go to the same festival as your sisters are gone to. You will proceed to it in a splendid state carriage, which you will find ready for you at the door when you leave this palace." "How is she breathing? Is the dress soaked? Is this all a hallucination and she's drowning? I have so many questions." At the conclusion of the festival, be careful to take your departure before your sisters do, and return here to take off your robes, for I promise you that a time is in store for you when you will be very happy indeed. When the maiden put on the garments, worked in gold and precious stones of very great value, she came out of the well, and on reaching the palace door she found a splendid carriage ready for her. She stepped in and proceeded to the festival. When she entered the edifice, everyone there was in admiration, and wondered from whence had come such a lovely, comely maiden with such rich robes. And wet.
She's styling a wet, sort of grunge-look hairdo.
She left the edifice without loss of time, the very moment that the festival was concluded. But in her hurry to get out, she lost one of her slippers, and the king, who was following close behind her, picked it up, and ordered an edict to be issued that he would marry the maiden to whom that slipper belonged. When she reached home, she went into the well at once to take off her rich garments, and when she left the enchanted palace, the fish told her to return in the evening, for he wished to ask her something. The maiden promised to comply with his wish, and departed. When her sisters returned home, she was seen busy in the kitchen, and they gave her a glowing account of the beautiful lady they had seen at the feast, who had on such rich robes, full of gold ornaments and precious stones, such as they had never seen before in their lives, and how this fair and lovely maiden had dropped one of her dainty slippers in her hurry to leave the edifice, which the king had picked up, and now signified his intention of marrying the maiden to whom it belonged. They told her that, such being the state of affairs, they would go to the palace to try the slipper, and were certain that it would fit one of them, who would then be made a queen, and then would she give the Hearth cat a new dress. Gosh, a new dress! How nice of them! The moment the sisters left for the palace, the maiden went to the well to see the fish, who said to her the moment he saw her, "Oh, maiden, will you marry me?" Well, that came out of nowhere. The maiden replied, "I cannot possibly marry a fish." But he so entreated her and urged his... Oh, look, it's the groom. But he so entreated her and urged his suit so ardently that she at last consented. Hey, does that make her a fishwife? The very instant the fish was transformed into a man, who said to her, "Know then that I am a prince who was enchanted here, and am the son of the sovereign who governs these lands. I know that my father has published an edict ordering all the maidens of his kingdom to repair to the palace and try on the slipper which you dropped today on coming away from the feast. Go, therefore, there yourself, and when the king tells you that you must marry him, inform him that you are already engaged to the prince, his son, who was enchanted, for his majesty will then send for me on hearing this." That seems needlessly complicated. The maiden left the well, and shortly after, her sisters returned from the palace looking very downcast and disappointed, because the slipper, after all, did not fit them. The maiden then hinted to them that she also thought of repairing to the palace to try on the slipper in case it should fit her. The sisters indignantly said, "Just see what airs the Hearth cat is putting on, and is not ashamed of herself. Go and show your tiny, dainty foot. Go." "Oh, no, use your tiny, dainty foot to fit into the tiny, dainty shoe. That doesn't seem as much like an insult as they think it is. The maiden went to the palace, nevertheless, and the sentinel, seeing her so shabbily dressed, would not let her pass. But the king, who just happened to be at the window, ordered them to let her enter. Why is it fairy tale kings have so much time on their hands? He had hardly given her the tiny slipper to try on, when his majesty remained struck with wonder to see how soon she drew it on, and how beautifully the slipper fitted her. And he that moment told her that he would make her his queen. The maiden, however, very respectfully, signified to him that it could not be, as she was already engaged to be the bride of his majesty's son, the prince who had been spellbound so long. The king, on hearing her, could scarcely contain his delight to think he would soon see his son again, disenchanted as he was now. Phew! I'll admit I was a little nervous about his reaction. He immediately set a retinue of the grandees of the realm to bring his son out of the well, and he married him to the beautiful maiden. There were great rejoicings and much feastings in honor of the occasion, and the sisters of the Hearth cat, filled with jealousy and bitterness at the sudden turn of affairs, were punished and commenced to throw all manner of filth out of their mouths. Yeah, I don't think I need to know any more about that. The Hearth cat remained in the palace, the bride of the prince, who afterward succeeded to the throne and became king. Wait, what happened to the dad? Is he, dead? Huh. Well, I guess that's the end of the story. So, I guess it's time for me to say those words that you all know by heart. Say it with me. Please like, share, and subscribe! Whee! Did we say it all at the same time? We probably did. Anyway, that's the way to defeat the algorithm, or so I'm told. I would also like to ask you to hit that notification bell if you haven't already. And I would like to thank Pixabay.com because, they're amazing. If you wouldn't mind, I also have a Patreon channel. And if you don't really want to pay, that's okay, because the moral supporters can still be on there and still get some cool stuff. And they're able to participate in the polls that I have started to do. And they can join whatever conversations and all that fun stuff. I also have a Facebook and an Instagram. Because I guess that's the cool thing to do, right? And I think that's it. So the most important thing, the best thing, is you. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it more than you'll ever know. And now a special thank you to my Patreon friends.